Jimi Hendrix died with just $20,000. Whitney Houston owed Sony $20 million, and Michael Jackson nearly $500 million in debt. 8 legendary rock stars achieved massive fame and fortune, only to die completely broke or drowning in debt. Despite selling millions of albums, headlining sold-out tours, and earning fortunes that should have lasted lifetimes, these musical icons found themselves financially destroyed by the very industry that made them famous. The music business has always been brutal, but for these artists, success became a curse that led to their financial ruin. Some fell victim to lavish spending sprees and drug addictions. Others were betrayed by the people they trusted most. Many discovered too late that fame doesn't guarantee financial security, a lesson that's become even more critical in today's streaming era, where artists earn just 3 to 5 thousandths of a penny per Spotify play. Let's start with perhaps the most tragic case of all, Jimi Hendrix, the guitar god who revolutionized rock music but died with just $20,000 to his name. When Hendrix passed away in 1970 at the age of 27, he had achieved legendary status as one of the greatest guitarists who ever lived. His performances at Woodstock and Monterey Pop had cemented his place in music history. Albums like Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland were considered masterpieces. Yet despite his astronomical success, Hendrix died virtually broke. The real tragedy? His estate was actually worth over $800,000 in 1970, equivalent to $5 million today. But Hendrix made the fatal mistake of dying without a will, a classic estate planning disaster that created decades of legal nightmares for his family. His father, Al, inherited everything, but within a few years, a trusted family lawyer convinced him to sell most of Jimi's rights for a fraction of their value. Band members Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell were paid one-time settlements of $100,000 and $300,000 respectively, signing away their future royalty rights forever. Today, the Hendrix estate is worth an estimated $175 million and growing, projected to reach $200 million by the end of 2025. Yet almost none of Jimi's blood relatives benefited from this windfall. His adopted stepsister Janie controls the estate through Experience Hendrix LLC, while his actual brother Leon was largely excluded. As Hendrix estate attorney Ken Hagood put it, when they turned the estate over to us, it had $20,000. But if Hendrix's story seems tragic, consider Michael Jackson, the king of pop who died with an estimated $400 to $500 million in debt, making him potentially the most financially destroyed musician of all time. Despite being the best-selling solo artist in history with albums like Thriller moving over 66 million copies worldwide, Jackson's spending habits were legendary even by celebrity standards. He purchased the Neverland Ranch for $17 million, then spent an additional $35 million on renovations including a private zoo and amusement park. Jackson's debt wasn't just from extravagant purchases. He borrowed heavily against his music catalog, including his stake in the Beatles' publishing rights through Sony/ATV Music Publishing. When he died in 2009, Jackson owed millions to multiple creditors and faced foreclosure on Neverland. Yet like many of these stories, Jackson's estate has since become incredibly valuable, worth an estimated $2 billion today through careful management and posthumous releases. Moving from the king of pop to the prince of soul, Marvin Gaye's story reveals how personal demons and tax troubles can destroy even the most successful careers. The Prince of Soul had given the world timeless classics like What's Going On and Sexual Healing. He'd sold millions of records and was considered one of the greatest artists of his generation. But by 1976, Gaye was forced to file for bankruptcy, overwhelmed by debt and personal struggles. When Gaye was tragically shot and killed by his own father on April 1, 1984, just one day before his 45th birthday, he was drowning in financial obligations. The IRS wanted $1 million in unpaid taxes. He owed $300,000 in back alimony. his total debt had ballooned to $1.9 million. At a court hearing shortly after his death, the family lawyer told the judge that Gaye's estate was completely insolvent. Despite years of musical success that should have set him up for life, Marvin Gaye died completely broke with no assets to speak of. Then there's the heartbreaking story of Billie Holiday, perhaps the greatest jazz vocalist who ever lived. Holiday's voice could convey pain and beauty like no other, and songs like Strange Fruit and God Bless the Child showcased her incredible artistry. But when she died in July 1959 at age 44 from complications related to alcoholism and drug abuse, Holiday had just 70 cents in the bank and $750 strapped to her leg. Her entire estate was worth a measly $1,000. The cruel irony? Holiday was arrested for narcotics possession while literally on her deathbed in the hospital. And because she died without a will, another estate planning catastrophe. Her entire estate went to Louis McKay, her abusive third husband. As author Daniel Smith observed, it's not right that someone who was as awful to Billie Holiday as Louis McKay was, would then have control of her likeness and her money. Today, Holiday's estate generates over $121,000 annually and is worth around $1 million. But none of that wealth went to Holiday herself or those who truly cared about her.
Lois, man.
Who am I? Who knows that I'm the only...
From jazz to the Rat Pack, Sammy Davis Jr.'s financial collapse shows how even the most successful entertainers can fall victim to poor money management. Davis was a triple threat, singer, dancer, and actor, who earned an estimated $50 million throughout his career. He was part of Frank Sinatra's legendary Rat Pack and performed for presidents and royalty. Yet when he died of throat cancer in 1990, Davis owed over $15 million, with $7 million of that going to the IRS alone. Davis himself seemed aware of his spending problem, once saying he made a lot of money and spent a lot of money. He took care of his family and they lived well. He lived high on the hog, as the saying goes, but then he owned the hog. But owning the hog proved expensive. Davis left his estate to his widow Altavise, but she inherited nothing but debt. It took lawyer Albert Murray Jr. 7 years to resolve the estate's financial obligations, and by then there was virtually nothing left for the family.
The only one that I know of man is this, that would not see.
So Hammer, if that's what you plan on doing with your career, more power.
No story illustrates the dangers of sudden wealth better than MC Hammer's spectacular rise and fall. In 1990, his album Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em exploded, selling over 10 million copies and making him one of the highest-paid entertainers in America with $33 million in earnings. Forbes ranked him at number 19 on their list of top earners. But Hammer's spending was as legendary as his music. He bought a 40,000 square foot mansion for $12 million, then spent another $30 million customizing it with gold hot tubs, gold toilets, statues of himself, and Italian marble floors. The mansion's maintenance alone cost $500,000 annually. He employed over 200 friends and family members, paying them extravagant salaries for often vague roles. He owned 17 luxury cars, a private jet, 2 helicopters, and even racehorses, one of which finished third in the 1992 Kentucky Derby. By 1996, just 6 years after his peak, Hammer filed for bankruptcy with $9.6 million in assets against $13.7 million in debts. As he later reflected, he had too much money and not enough sense. While Hammer survived his financial collapse and rebuilt his life, his story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unlimited spending during peak success. Speaking of cautionary tales from the 90s, even hugely successful groups like TLC filed for bankruptcy at the height of their fame, despite selling over 65 million records worldwide. The girl group discovered that record label contracts can be structured in ways that leave artists broke even after massive commercial success, a harsh reality that led Prince to famously protest his Warner Brothers contract by writing "slave" on his face during the 1990s. Not all artists who died broke were victims of their own excess. Some were exploited by the very people meant to protect them. Take Gregory Coleman, the drummer whose 7-second drum break became the foundation of modern hip-hop and electronic music. Coleman played on the Winstons' 1969 track Amen Brother, creating what became known as the Amen Break, the most sampled drum sequence in music history, used in over 6,000 songs. This 6-second masterpiece helped create entire genres of music. It's been sampled by everyone from NWA to Oasis, from jungle to drum and bass to countless hip-hop tracks. The break generated millions of dollars for countless artists and record labels. Yet Coleman, the man who created it, never received a penny in royalties. The copyright belonged to the Winstons' bandleader Richard Spencer, and neither he nor Coleman understood the break's value until decades later. Coleman died homeless and destitute in 2006, completely unaware that his drumming had shaped the course of popular music. As Spencer said in 2011, Gregory Coleman died homeless and broke, urging successful musicians who had used the sample to give something back. The tragedy of Coleman's story highlights how the music industry often fails to protect its most creative contributors. Whitney Houston's financial downfall reveals how even the biggest stars can find themselves trapped by debt and poor decisions. Houston had one of the most powerful voices in music history and signed a $100 million contract that should have set her up for life. She sold over 200 million albums worldwide and dominated the charts throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Yet when Houston died tragically in 2012, she was $20 million in debt to her record label Sony. Years of drug addiction, expensive lifestyle choices, and poor financial management had eroded her fortune. She was leaning heavily on music mogul Clive Davis for financial help, who reportedly loaned her $1.2 million to prevent her homes from going into foreclosure. However, Houston's story has a more hopeful ending than most. Under the management of her sister-in-law, Pat Houston, the estate has undergone a remarkable financial resurrection. Through strategic partnerships, including a deal with Primary Wave Entertainment in 2019, Houston's estate is now worth an estimated $100 million as of 2025. Primary Wave founder Larry Mestel noted that they've basically quadrupled the earnings stream of the estate. These stories reveal the dark underbelly of the music industry, where talent and success don't guarantee financial security. Whether through poor money management, addiction, exploitation, or simple bad luck, these legendary artists discovered that fame and fortune can be as fleeting as they are intoxicating. Their music lives on, generating millions for record labels and streaming services, but they themselves died with empty bank accounts and crushing debt. The tragedy isn't just financial, it's human. These were artists who gave the world incredible music, who inspired generations, who created sounds that will live forever. Yet the industry that celebrated their talents often failed to protect them from financial ruin. Their stories serve as sobering reminders that in the music business, artistic genius and business acumen are two entirely different skills, and lacking the latter can cost everything. Today, as streaming has transformed how artists earn money and social media has changed how fame works, these cautionary tales remain more relevant than ever. The Music Modernization Act has attempted to address some royalty issues, but with streaming payouts so low, financial planning and proper estate management are more crucial than ever. Success in music has always been unpredictable, but financial security requires planning, protection, and often a bit of luck that these 8 legendary artists never found.